Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Connect and Convert, the Sales Accelerator podcast, where small business owners can learn insider secrets to growing their sales faster than ever. And as always, we promise an exciting new topic today, as every session. Today's topic: this anchor is not for your boat. I'm Dennis Collins, and I'm alongside my partner. Hey, Leah, say hello to our audience.
Hey Dennis, how you doing?
I'm good. Leah Bumphrey, all the way from Canada. I want to start today with a question for you, Leah. Okay.
All right.
Now, I know you guys in Canada use some old-fashioned system to discuss temperatures. I think it's called Celsius or something like that. So this is not a trick question, but I want you to think about the answer to this question. Okay.
Okay.
In Fahrenheit, is the average temperature in San Francisco greater or less than 333 degrees Fahrenheit? What do you think?
Well, you know what? There's no question. It's got to be less than that. I mean, even if I had not taken Fahrenheit in elementary school way back when we did the big change, I know that I'm right here. It's
Well, what do
it's
you think it
less than
is? Take a guess. What do you think the average temperature in San Francisco?
average temperature in San Francisco
In Fahrenheit, yeah.
in Fahrenheit. Okay, I would say probably I don't know, 80
80. Okay.
degrees. Yep.
That's a good guess. Good. Okay. For those of you who are Nick Kalenda fans, some of you may be, he does a whole lot of work on anchoring and contrast. So you may have seen this example in his book. It's all over the place. So, Leah, you did think of an exact estimate, right?
I
You
did.
came up with an exact number. It was far less than the number that I suggested, was it not?
Oh, big time.
Yeah, of course. The number I suggested, however, influenced your final decision. Did you know that?
Makes sense. Tell me how. Tell me more.
Well, I'll tell you how. If I hadn't presented that number, that 333 degrees Fahrenheit, your number would have probably been lower. Okay. And how do I know that? Nerd alert, nerd alert, nerd alert. Poitron et al., 1984, proved that when a number is thrown out before you ask the question, like I ask you,
Yep.
even though the number is ridiculous, it is obviously wrong, it is irrational, that
Yep.
number serves as an anchor for your answer. So try this on your friends if you're skeptical.
Hmm.
Next time you try it, just ask them without providing a number. Just say, hey, what do you think the average temperature in San Francisco is? I'll bet you get lower than 80. I'll bet you $100
All right.
Canadian.
All right. Canadian. Oh, well, that's hardly anything.
Yeah, that's true. So today we want to talk about anchoring and contrast. Have you ever read Predictably Irrational, Leah? It's a very famous book by Dan Ariely. Have you read that book?
I haven't, but it sounds intriguing.
I love it. Ariely's he's a genius and he writes about contrast and anchoring. So let me give you an experiment that he conducted with some college students, okay?
Okay.
They were given some options for a subscription to a magazine. Okay. In the first case, they had two choices. Choice A was an online subscription for $59. Choice B was an online and print subscription for $125. Okay. Leah, which one would you choose? The online for 59 or online plus print for 125? Which way would you go on that?
Well, I always like being able to touch the books and the print that I'm reading, but I don't know. That's a big difference in cost. I'd probably go for the online.
Online only? Okay. Well, you would be in the majority. In this experiment, 68% of the college students chose option A, which is online for $59. That's the least expensive option. Okay.
Yeah.
That produced in this experiment just over $8,000 in revenue. Okay. So now they switched it up. Now they made three choices. They kept choice A, which is online for 59, but they added another choice B which was print only for 125. And then they added a choice C, online and print for 125. 59 for your online, choice A. Choice B is just the print for 125. And choice C, online and print for 125. What would you choose, my dear Leah, in this case?
Well, I hate myself, but I have to say, choice C now seems like a better deal. It seems like I'm getting more because look at B, I'm only getting A and B, I get one, and all of a sudden it sounds better.
Aha. So you would opt for choice C, correct?
It looks like a better deal to me.
Okay. Well, guess what? Very few chose option B when they could get the online and print for the same price. So you were
Right.
in the majority. However, online only, remember that one in the first time, 68%, it dropped to 16%. Okay,
Really?
dropped to 16, the online only. The more expensive now, online and print went from 32 to 84%. The print only option's mere presence is called a decoy. Okay? It's a decoy. Why is it a decoy? Do you have a sense of why it might be a decoy?
Well, I think of what it did to me. It gives you just something else to think about, and all of a sudden you're seeing a better deal somewhere else, even though hard cost, it's more. I don't feel as unique anymore, Dennis.
Right, there you go. Well, the decoy is put in there, as you said. The print for 125 is the decoy, choice B. Hardly anybody bought that, okay? But they
Yeah.
used it to compare choice A and C, A being online for 59, but C, you get online and print for 125. And all of a sudden, sales went berserk. A 43% increase in sales from just over 8,000 to almost $11,500 by just putting that decoy in there as choice B. Isn't
So
that
having that third choice, whether
a
you're
decoy?
presenting or being presented to, it
Yes.
just changes how you look at it.
It absolutely changes how you look at it. And again, this is all science. This is not Dan Ariely or Dennis Collins' opinion. This is brain science. When the new option is better, the new option is the clear winner. The new
Mhm.
option here was online and print for 125. Bingo. All of a sudden, they sold 86, 84% of the time they sold that. However, if the new option is worse, the already existing similar option wins. So it works both ways. Isn't that exciting?
That is really
And
neat
that's
information.
that's all about brain system one thinking, quick. We want things fast, automatic. We don't want to think about it. It takes too much energy to think. System one brain makes that all possible. Okay. So today I want to make a challenge to our viewers and our listeners. Okay. Now, don't answer this question, Leah. You probably know the answer, but don't answer. We'll reveal this at the end of today's episode. Okay.
Okay.
Here's the question. In sales, when you're trying to make an initial price impression, when you want to get a price out there in a sales conversation, is it best to A, give a range, let's say like $15,000 to $30,000, or B, to give a specific number? Okay. So
So
when you're
not
trying
in the
to make
close, but initially when you're first talking about price,
this
that's
is
what you're saying.
first price impression.
Okay,
And again,
gotcha.
we'll do a whole podcast on price impression someday. That's a critical part of any sales conversation. Okay. When you give the first inkling of price, okay, as you might guess from our previous conversation about anchoring, it has something to do with anchoring for sure. Okay. So when you're trying to make that initial price impression, is a range like 15 to 30,000 better or be a specific number? Okay.
Okay.
We'll give you the scientific results at the end of this episode. So a lot of people are thinking, the only anchor I'm aware of is the damn anchor in my boat. Well, that's true, but this is not that anchor. What does the anchor in a boat do? Do you have a boat, Leah? You probably have a boat. You probably go zipping around up
I
there.
do not, but I wish I did today. It's a beautiful day in Western Canada, and there are fish to be caught, but only if you have a boat.
Well, I don't have a boat either, but you know what they say, don't get a boat. Just make sure you have a lot of friends who have boats. So I do go out on a boat and you drop that anchor so you don't drift, right? It
Right.
keeps you relatively in the same position. It's kind of a reference point. Your boat can only move the distance of the anchor chain or the rope. So it kind of works that way in person-to-person communication. Okay, how about our second nerd alert? Get ready. Nerd alert number two. Tversky and Kahneman, 1974. They found that we humans tend to make judgments by using relative distances from anchor points. Anchoring is a cognitive bias. It's a system one cognitive bias where we individuals rely heavily on an initial piece of information that's called the anchor when we're trying to make a decision. We tend to arrive at the value of something by looking at the value of things that are nearby or something which we see right before we see the price that the salesperson wants to present. So it's a
Mhm.
reference point. Here's the cool thing. It doesn't have to be directly related to the other object, the object that you're presenting. It doesn't have to be relevant. It doesn't even have to be accurate, as I was totally inaccurate with the temperature in San Francisco. This is unconscious. It's below consciousness. We are generally not aware of its impact. It's called a heuristic because it's a shortcut. We adjust our judgments in relation to some anchor. So, for example, when you gave me your estimate for San Francisco of 80 degrees, you probably started mentally at 333 and said, no, it can't be 333 and worked down
Right.
to a more reasonable estimate. That's what science says happens in our brains. By nature, our system one automatic brains are lazy. We are motivated to produce accurate judgments, however. We try to use a shortcut with the least amount of effort to produce accurate judgments. So, isn't that interesting? Do you see, Leah, how that can be used in everyday sales conversations?
Absolutely. I've used the term, and it's something I learned from reading Roy Williams information, but I use the
Yes.
term benchmarking because
Benchmark.
it sets it in stone where
Yes.
kind of a range. Now that doesn't mean that's exactly where you're going to end up, but it's that range.
Yeah, but it's probably never where you end up. Okay. The point is that you make that impression. It's sometimes outrageously irrational, but it still is an anchoring in the mind of the person you're speaking to. It's an anchor. And so when you present your price, which may be on the high side, relatively speaking, it
Yep.
doesn't sound so bad because you've already anchored a ridiculously high price. Do you think that's manipulation? I mean, some people say that's you're manipulating. What do you
I,
think?
I, I don't think it is because when you're having this conversation as a salesperson, I need to know, Dennis, are you looking to buy the Cadillac that's going to cost you $90,000? Or are you looking for a really serviceable Kia that's going to, get you where you need to go for $25,000? I need to know. And by body language and by saying, hey, we could do this or this, it's not manipulating, it's helping you to be able to service the client.
Well, it is. It's trying to get inside, as you know, one of my big pet peeves is we would all make more sales if we only spent more time getting inside the brain of our customer. What's in there? It's their show. It's not our show. It's their show.
Yep.
And this is, in my opinion, this is one way to get inside their brain by anchoring something and seeing how they respond to that and seeing how they respond to your pricing, to your offering as compared to the anchor. It's something that's worth experimenting with. So I also, talking of experimenting, one of the things that I learn every time I go to the Wizard Academy is iterations are experiments, aren't they? They're just experiments. Some work and some don't work. But Wizard Academy is the place to try your iterations, to try your experiments, to try things that you've never tried before.
And to talk to people that have done the same thing. Wizardacademy.org. That's why we are so thrilled that they sponsor us and also so thrilled to recommend them because there is so much information available.
So much, and you'll be happy that you check out wizardacademy.org. Please do. Okay, let's answer the challenge question that I issued a little bit earlier. My question was, when you're trying to make an first initial price impression in a sales conversation, is it A, better to give a range like $15,000 to $30,000 or to give a specific number? Okay, Leah, I'd love your opinion on this first. What do you think?
Without a question, it's the range. When you are first talking price, you need to give that range. You need to have, boundaries here and here. It gives an opportunity for conversation to explain it and to hone in on the specific later in the conversation. No
Okay,
question in my
so
mind.
you come down on the range, okay?
Absolutely.
And I'm going to come down on the exact price, exact number, I should say, the exact number. Aha. So why? Let's discuss.
Okay.
Let's talk about what happens when you set a range of 15, say 15 to $30,000. That's a pretty broad range, isn't it? Where does the human brain go in those situations? To the 30,000 or to the 15,000?
Always down to the lowest, always to the lowest in the range you give.
So if you're prepared for that to be your anchor, that lowest number, great. Do a range. People go to what I call the wishful thinking. When they hear that you throw out that number, they're thinking, oh, 15,000. I'm now expecting something around 15,000. And then you come in at 20,000 or 25,000 and they're like, what? But had they anchored at 30,000, what would happen? Oh, that's better than I expected.
They'd be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. The human brain tends to focus on the most favorable to us. In this case, it would be the 15,000. And I have seen ranges used, but they usually backfire because the lower number is what you end up with.
So when we are benchmarking or when we are
Yeah.
anchoring initially by stating the highest it could possibly be,
Or
even if they're going, this is ridiculous, I'm never going to buy a Cadillac, you are
correct.
establishing that you know how to do this. You
You know
have this available, and then you can end up giving a range as you continue the conversation. Are you thinking?
Well,
Is
yeah,
that
of course,
what I'm understanding?
yeah, it's going to be a negotiation. You're not going to settle for the price that you give in the anchor. That never happens. I mean, that's that the anchor is not there for that. It's there to set an expectation at a higher level. Okay. So what is also giving a specific number? It shows that you have confidence in your pricing. Now, I don't recommend doing a 333 Fahrenheit degree example. That's outrageous. But I believe you should anchor with something that's within reason, something that you could offer at a price and use that as your anchor. Okay. It's
Dennis,
not a,
it's
yes,
Boomer.
hello.
It's
Boomer.
Boomer.
He
Yes.
came out of the wood.
I came
Where
in.
did he come from?
I came from the caves of
He came out of
production.
the ether.
I
The
did.
ether.
Mwah.
Hi, Boomer.
Hi there.
How are you?
So I have a question for you actually. Something
Please.
that I've used many times with anchoring is very similar to what you've said in terms of, between 15,000 and 30,000. Now, I absolutely understand. I like the idea of the lowest denominator, the wishful thinking. That's what you said. Wishful thinking. Well, of course I'm going to go with 15,000 because I don't have to spend $30,000 to get XYZ. However, what if, well, my other question, well, okay, one of my questions is, what if somebody says, well, the range is between 15,000 and 30,000, but most people spend about 20,000? What does that do to the equation? Does that do anything?
Yes. Okay. Remember, social proof, most people spend 20,000. We are very interested in what people like us do, how much they spend. Look at all I don't know, I get in my feed every day online. Here's what the average person in your age group is their net worth. I always look at that and I'm always below it. I don't know what happened to me. But we love to compare ourselves to people like us. That could have a better chance, Boomer, of working other than just leaving it out there 15 to 30. Leaving
Okay.
that range generally works against you. You see what I'm saying?
And
Now,
that goes back to our example of having three, right? So
yes.
we have the the one that is not designed to be paired.
Right. See, what Paul's doing is setting up a triplicate of choice, basically, where you have the low end, the very high end, and then of course the middle. Okay. And
Yeah.
most people, when they're given a triplicate of choice, will choose the middle. Okay. Most people. So that has some validity in science. I also have seen it work in real life, where you suggest a number that most people do because it uses social proof and it uses the principle of anchoring and contrast.
Awesome.
So,
Well, I appreciate that, Dennis. I'm going to go back in my cave now and let you guys
no,
continue with the conversation. That I really appreciate that. That helped a lot.
well, I'm glad you
Hey,
checked in. It's always good to hear from you, buddy. Make sure you're alive and well back there.
I will. I will. I'll keep my finger on the trigger.
Well,
we'll send coffee. You know what, Dennis? This tells me that we have to come back to this topic because there's a lot of variations on the theme
there are.
here. There's a lot of
And
things that we
I
can get
would
into.
bet in the minds of our viewers and listeners, I have probably stirred up more questions than answers. Good. That's what we're here for. We're here to stir it up. And just like it triggered something with Boomer, I'll bet it's triggered something with you. So please send us your questions. Speaking of that, do you have a question for today? We always try to answer a question, and maybe today you have one.
We do. We had a question come in from one of our listeners, and he wanted to know, how is it possible to show influence and authority without coming across as a person, I'm not going to read the word on air, but as somebody that you really don't want to be hanging out with. We know those people.
Okay, we do. And I think I get the question. We're talking about Cialdini's principle of authority, of course, which is one of the 7 principles of influence. And yes, to our dear listener, viewer, you do have to be cautious with authority because authority can turn into arrogance, can it not? It certainly can, but it doesn't have to. Okay. Here's some thoughts. Number 1, always have someone introduce your authority. Okay. If you introduce it yourself, then it can sound arrogant, narcissistic, and self-serving. Always, like if you're going to give a speech, if you're going to present something to a client, say maybe the first time you've ever met this client and they don't know your credentials, they don't know your authority. Don't you be the one to present it. Have a partner of yours, a colleague, write a note, write a letter describing your credentials. Why do we do that? Because once again, if you claim authority on your own, that weakens it. That totally weakens the authority. Like, oh yeah, of course he's going to say that. He's talking about himself, right? So
Right.
always have someone else claim your authority. Does that make sense?
I think that's an excellent answer. That gets right to the heart of it.
Yeah, and there are many other ways, and we can do a whole session. Should we do an episode on authority? I guess we probably should, shouldn't we?
I think so. I think influence is such a misunderstood opportunity for helping people. I think we need to go there, but it's not going to be today, Dennis.
No, we're out of time today. I just want to again challenge our viewers, our listeners. Remember, what is said or written first determines what impact what is said next has. Okay? It can add to your impact, it can subtract from it. Commit to some experiments this week. Start slowly with no chance of any big losses and build your way up to become an anchoring master.
And we welcome your emails. Let us know how it goes. This is exciting stuff when you start seeing it in action.
Yeah, we might use your question or your comment in the next episode of Connect and Convert. Hey, that's all for today. Thank you, Leah, as always. I thank producer Paul for booming in and adding to the discussion. And I look forward to seeing everyone next week on Connect and Convert.